I wanted, I'm going to switch over to Bridge here and grab, I'll grab this one. Sure. Now I'm going to start dragging out of Bridge. There's various ways you can do it Bridge, and Anne-Marie Concepcion is going to do a whole thing on Bridge, and Ted Lacosio is doing another thing on Bridge. We've got a lot of Bridge stuff going on, and you can reduce the size and this and that. But what I usually do if I want to get something out of Bridge and into InDesign is drag and drop. And I'm dragging, and I'm looking around for InDesign, and it's not there. So remember the trick we did earlier? I'm dragging, the mouse button's being held down, Command-Tab to go to InDesign, mouse button is still being held down, and then drop. Let go of the mouse button and it drops it in. So you can use the application switcher, and this works on Mac or Windows. The application switcher on Mac is Command-Tab, and on Windows it's Alt-Tab, but that drag application switch, let go, works on both Mac and Windows from something like the Finder or Bridge or whatever. Okay, now what if we wanted, let's drop this on here. Let's make this a little bit more bold. And I'm going to hit J to apply it to the, there we go. It's looking a little bit more interesting. How did I do this before? Well, this will work. Question that I continue to get asked, and so I keep doing it at some of these conferences, so you may have seen this before, but people keep asking me, so I'm going to show it. How do I get this text on top of, the text is sitting on top of this image, but I want some of the image to sit on top of the text. This is what I call the Sports Illustrated effect, right? Because it's like every cover of Sports Illustrated has somebody's head on top of the Sports Illustrated logo. And it's still vector. It's a vector logo, but there's raster on top of it, right? So and it's very easy to do in InDesign and Photoshop if you do a Photoshop InDesign combo deal. So let me show you how to do it. I'm going to, this is a PSD file, I think. I'm going to the info palette. Don't forget the info palette in InDesign, incredibly useful tool. Let me zoom in here. I have the image selected, and the info palette tells me, oh, this is a PSD file, and here's the resolution of it, and here's the effective resolution, right? You know the difference between image resolution and effective resolution? If I scale this down, if I scale this image down, what happens to the pixels? Each of the pixels gets smaller, so more of them fit into a single inch, and therefore the effective resolution goes up, right? So you have more pixels per inch, 349. So the info palette gives you a lot of information about this. Now, notice also that this is an RGB image. I'm going to be talking tomorrow about why using RGB images in InDesign is not a bad thing. In fact, why I prefer to use RGB images. Let me scale that back out there. But that's for tomorrow. Today, what we want to do is get some of this image on top. Now, the only way you can get that image on top is by editing pixels. And as soon as you start thinking in terms of, well, I want this pixel but not that pixel, you need Photoshop. A little plugin called Photoshop. You might have heard of it. Option double-click on this or Alt double-click on Windows. It launches Photoshop, opens that image. By the way, that little Alt double-click or Option double-click, I'm not sure if Sandy mentioned this, but that's actually, InDesign is not doing any kind of magic. It does not somehow know that it's supposed to open in Photoshop. All it's doing is asking the operating system, Mac or Windows, hey, would you open this file for me? And that is why sometimes you do the Option double-click on it or the Edit Original trick, and it opens in completely the wrong program. It's the OS doesn't know where it's supposed to open. So oftentimes it'll open, like on the Mac, it'll open in Preview, or on Windows, it'll open in Windows and Fax Viewer or something. You'll get all these weird things. It's because the OS doesn't know where to open it. And the fix for that is very simple. The fix for that is you simply select this. Here's a good example. Let me grab this Madaba. Here we go. So here's an image. Option double-click on it, and it opens in Preview. So what's the fix? The fix is to close it, go back to your Finder, select it, and then say, or Windows Explorer, same thing, select that and say, get info or properties, and you tell it what you want to open it with. Oh, let's change the whole desktop. No. There we go. Come on, info. Open with what? You want to open it with preview or whatever. So as soon as I change this, then it will open in the proper application. I'm not going to do that right now, but that's how that works. And you can do it for all apps. I mean, for all things with the same extension, or file type, depending on which OS you're on. Okay, let me put that off to the side. We might need that later. Back to Photoshop. We're on Photoshop, right? In Photoshop, you may have noticed that in Photoshop I have a new layer, and on that layer is a little chunk of that plinth column, whatever that thing is. So I just copied that and put it on a new layer. That's all. It's just sitting on its own little layer all by itself. Now, I'm not going to do anything in Photoshop. I just needed you to see that that's what I did. And you could tell, I mean, that wouldn't take very long, right? Just select it, Command-J puts it on a new layer, close it, come back over here, and we can see that little chunk, right? Because earlier on, we talked about how you can turn on and off layers, or Sandy showed how you can turn on and off layers. So I'm going to, excuse me, I'm going to select this background, and I'm going to put it on a new layer. Now, how do I get that object onto a new layer? I could move it to a new layer by dragging this little icon, this little blue square. But if I option drag, it duplicates it onto the new layer. So now I've got an exact duplicate in pin registered on top of each other, right? So there's before and there's after. So that's what's going on there. I've got another one right on top. But this one over here, I don't want all that big background. So I'm simply going to turn it off. Turn off layer 0, click OK. And that's it. I have a chunk of the image over here that sits on top of the vector, and I've got some of it that's behind the vector. And that's the whole trick right there.